What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got to look at some new Untamed cards. There was a live stream this week where some new cards were revealed from Set 2, Age of Ascension, and we've just looked at the Sanctum cards, and we've also taken a look at the discards, and for those of you that don't know, they use one new deck every time. Winner keeps a deck from last time and loser changes, all the other way around. So there's 3 houses, and we've looked at 2 houses. That leaves 1 house remaining. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at some new Untamed cards. Now, we got 3 of them to be having a gander at. So let's start off having a look at Song of Spring. Now, as is inevitable when new sets come out of trading card games or unique deck games as Keyforge is, some of the cards are going to look really, really exciting, some of the new cards. And some of the new cards are going to look like meh. This very much falls into the former category. This, ladies and gentlemen, looks extremely exciting. Now, the good news to begin with, it's got an Ember bonus. And then it's an action card that reads, when you play it, shuffle any number of friendly untamed creatures from your hand, discard pile, or battle line back into your deck. And this can do a whole bunch of good stuff. So maybe you've just got a creature that's about to get KO'd and you don't really want it to, so you can pop it straight back into your deck. If a creature gets KO'd, it ends up in your discard pile, and eventually, if the game lasts long enough, then your discard pile becomes full, and your deck becomes empty, and you shuffle your discard pile and it becomes your deck. Cool. This allows you to get the creatures back now without having to wait until that happens. So you can get creatures off of the battle line to save them. But clearly, it's going to be way better here if we can find some creatures with coming into play abilities, which you can then reuse. So for instance, Dana. Dana's one we looked at in a previous video where we talked about new Untamed cards. And when you play it, you gain 1 Ember for each damage-friendly creature. Now, this isn't Nature's Call. This doesn't pick up the creatures such that you can then immediately play them down again. This shuffles them back into your deck. But it means that this is ready to go. Dana comes into play and it does its thing, and then you can heal by reaping, but you're a 2-power creature, you're probably not going to last very long. If you've got some damaged creatures, the best thing Dana can do is come into play, get yourself a whole bunch of Ember, and get on out of here. This is going to help you with that massively. Now, that's the only Wave 2 Untamed creature we've seen that has the ability when you play it, although I'm sure there's going to be more. But how about Mighty Tiger? Play it, deal 4 damage to an enemy creature. Well, you probably want to get it back into your deck so that you can replay it later. That sounds like the kind of thing you might want to do. Or Flaxia, which gains 2 Ember when you control more creatures than your opponent. The point is, these are the kind of creatures whereby you play them and you're like, yeah, and then you're kind of done. So you want to get them back into your deck, and this does so. No, it's not as good as Nature's Call in that you can only actually put them into your deck, not into your hand. But remember, Nature's Call is 3 creatures, maximum. This could be everything. This could be your entire battle line, which is kind of ridiculous, frankly. Utterly ridiculous. Now, that's from your battle line, but it also just gets creatures from your discard pile back into your deck. So I told you a moment ago that generally speaking, when something hits a discard pile, you've got to wait, and then eventually you can get all of those creatures back. Well, this just gets them all back now. Now it's to your deck, not your hand. But bearing in mind, the best card probably we had in Wave 1 for this was Arise. It was a discard, and you returned each creature of that house from your discard pile to your hand and gained a chain. And that did put them in your hand, but it was every creature, and you gained a chain, and it didn't have an Ember bonus. So this has fairly significant advantages over that. And as if that wasn't enough, there is a third part of this. And the third part is that you can take creatures from your hand and put them back into your deck. And this is essentially for where you want a creature, but you don't want it now. One great example of this, Fuzzy Gruen. Fuzzy Gruen gives you a double ember bonus when you play it, but when you play it, your opponent gains 1 ember. You want to play Fuzzy Gruen because you want that double ember. But if you're sitting there and you've got no way this turn to remove any ember from your opponent, and they've got 5 ember, and nobody has increased the cost of forging a key, you can't play Fuzzy Gruen. Because if you play Fuzzy Gruen, then you give your opponent an ember, and then next turn they forge a key. You can't do that, ladies and gentlemen. That's far too risky. So what you do instead is you wait a turn, or a few turns. You use this to get Fuzzy Gruen back into your deck. You don't have to discard it. If you discard it, it's going to take way longer to come back to you. It's not clogging up your hand now, meaning that you draw 1 fewer card at the end of your turn. But it goes back into your deck and hopefully you'll draw it fairly quickly. And I have scratched the surface in the last 5 minutes of the things that you can do with Song of Spring. Getting creatures off your battle line to reuse coming into play abilities or just heal them. Getting creatures from your discard pile back into your deck so you can get them more quickly. And just getting creatures from your hand into your deck so you still draw them, but you draw them a little bit later. And you've got an ember bonus on top of this. This has gone straight near the top of my, wow, that's really good from set 2 list. It's still not there, right? Barrister Joya is still number 1 as it stands. Barrister Joya that stops you reaping, still looks kind of over the top great. But still, this is looking all right. Now, I did promise you 3 new cards. I lied. We've only actually got 2 new cards. But let me make it up to you by reminding you that MARMO Swarm is a thing. And this was shown off on the live stream this weekend. This week. So it wasn't the biggest lie ever. Look how cute they are. And they get +1 power for each ember in your pool. How cool is that? It also means they get stronger as the turn goes on. Right after you forge, bad. Right before you forge, good. But there was another card that was revealed that we need to look at, and it is Shard of Life. Now, we touched on shards in a disc video yesterday. Shard is a new type of item. I believe it's a new type of item. It's an artifact. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 97% sure that I'm not. We didn't have shards in set 1. In Call of the Archons, shards weren't a thing. Now, so far, we have seen Shard of Life, which is one of the cards that came around from Untamed that was shown off in the video. And then we've also seen Shard of Pain, which was a discard. Now, they're both rares. So my presumption, and I could be wrong about this, clearly, but my presumption is that each house is having 1 shard. There are going to be 7 of them, they're going to be rares, and they all seem to have effects which do more depending on how many shards you've got in play. So, ordinarily, the best case scenario here is that you've got 3. And to be honest, the chances of that are very slim, because they're rare cards, so you'd have to have all 3 of them as rares for the appropriate house. It's not that likely. There's a whole bunch of decks out there that don't even have 1 rare for each house. Now, the deck they showed off on stream had 2 of them in. We don't know if they had more, to be honest with you. They might have done. They might have had the Sanctum one as well and just not shown it off. If I was doing a live stream, and look, these things are planned, I don't know for a fact, but I would be willing to bet that the live stream was deliberately planned to show off the shards, so they found a deck that had at least 2 shards in. It makes sense. I like to think there was a third, we just didn't see it. So it seems like there are going to be 1 shard for each house, and then essentially the more you've got, the better they are. I should remind you at this stage that Maverick cards are a thing. For those of you that are unfamiliar, Maverick cards are essentially in the wrong house. That is to say, you could get the Shadows shard card in Untamed as a Maverick. But let's say you're rolling with 3. So to go back to Shard of Life, what does it actually do? Well, you shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck for each friendly shard. Free shards, free cards from your discard pile back into your deck. Now, if you only want to get creatures back, Song of Spring is just way better. Just instantly better. Because you could get free, or you could get 7. You get as many as you like, or from your battlefield, or from your hand, and you get an Ember bonus. So let's be clear. If you're going for creatures, Song of Spring makes this shard completely redundant. But maybe you're going for action cards, or maybe you're going for upgrades. Maybe you're going for Way of the Bear, or Way of the Wolf, or the recently revealed and featured in a previous video, link in the description, Way of the Porcupine. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, you can get your upgrades back. Or you can get actions back. So you can use this to get a Song of Spring to get all of the rest of your creatures. Now that could be a fun combo. Or maybe if we have a look at one of the other Untamed cards that was revealed so far, we've only had one other action revealed from set 2. It is Persistence Hunting, which firstly has an Ember bonus, and secondly exhausts each enemy creature of one chosen house. So if they've got most creatures from one house, you can exhaust them all, which means next turn they don't get to use them. Remember, you unexhaust at the end of your turn, so if they get exhausted during your opponent's turn, they're not usable on your own. So this could be amazing, but it really depends. If you want to get creatures back, we've got better options. But if you want to get actions and all back, this is phenomenal. Having said that, and I don't know, this is just supposition on my part, but it seems awfully like most of the time you're just going to have one shard from one house. So most of the time you're just going to have Shard of Life, and it means that every Untamed turn you get to put one card back into your deck. Not terrible by any stretch, but far from phenomenal. But at this stage, I would very much like to know what you think about this pair of cards. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk Keyforge and we talk other things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.